Good morning, welcome to another field. Rashad with you tell this is March the 2nd, 2026. New month. Let's get into it, man. Almost close to finishing this book. Sermon on the Mount. The teachings of Jesus, the great teachings of Jesus Christ. Continue on with chapter 85, recognizing the false prophet. And after chapter 7, verse 16 and 20. By their fruit you will recognize them. Do people pick grapes from thorn bushes, or figs from thistles? Likewise, every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit, and a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. Just by their fruit you will recognize them. So, verse 16 and 20 of chapter 7 of Matthew. Let's get into it. You might think Jesus contradicted himself. First, he says that false prophets are directly the sheep's clothing. Then he goes on to say that they are easy to recognize by their fruit. And what Jesus means is that if you know what you're like, so as we often hear looking for an address, it's easy when you know the way. Matthew chapter 7, verse 16, you shall know them by their fruits. Frequently applied to the question, is so-and-so a Christian? I don't think it necessarily is wrong to do this. At all, it follows a valid principle. Jesus said, wisdom is proved right by her actions. All affirm the Philippians as being eternally saved. Begin a good work in you. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion to the day of Christ Jesus. All knew these people intimately. After all, truth produces certain results. It sets one free and changes lives. But Matthew chapter 7, verse 16 is not really referring to whether a person is truly a Christian. Jesus is talking about the fruit of a false prophet or religious leader. So how do you tell a false prophet? Because a false prophet comes in sheep's clothing, which means he mixes with the sheep. He is hard to identify. Matthew chapter 7, verse 16 says that if you know what you are looking for, you will spot this false prophet and avoid a deeper trouble down the road. Why does Jesus think about prophets rather than false prophets? Apostles. Surely would include these. A prophet seems to carry a lot of authority and weight in those days. The prophetic had a long tradition going back to Samuel, Elijah, Elisha. Jeremiah then, there was a certain aura that speaks to being a prophet. People were fascinated by a prophet. I can see you are a prophet. Said the Samaritan woman to Jesus. There is nothing greater than a true prophet, nothing worse than a false one. The illustration of the false prophet's fruit. Jesus chose to use the word fruit. He might have said, you will know them by their fruit failure. Or said, if what a prophet proclaims in the name of the Lord does not take place or come true, that is a message. The Lord has not spoken. That prophet has spoken presumptuously. Do not be afraid of him. Jesus might have said, you will know them by their father. You said they have left the straight way, while the others have followed the way of balance. So the bull, he was rebuked for his wrongdoing by a donkey. Beast without speech, spoke with a man's voice and restrained his madness. The folly will be clear to everyone. Paul said about people like this. Paul said this. You will recognize false prophets by whom they won't need to follow. Said that if a prophet or one who foretells by dreams says let's follow other gods, you must listen to that prophet. You must be put to death because of preaching rebellion against the Lord your God. He tells us that we are to look for certain fruits that will let us know whether this person is false or true. You might have expected Jesus true prophet who will speak God's word to edify and bless you, instead of being direct to the fruit of the true prophet. We're told to look for the fruit of the false prophet. Jesus gives this illustration. Do people take grapes from thorn bushes and figs from thistles? Don't pick grapes from thorn bushes or figs from thistles. Grapes grow on vines, figs on growing trees. The ironies of Jesus' warning is that, having said it is hard to set up, one is a false prophet. Jesus changes metaphors from sheep and wolves to cheese and their fruits. He moves from knowledge and recognition to recognition. Though he may mistake a wolf and sheep spoken for a true prophet, this will probably be with so with the tree. The irony is then that the false prophet is more hard to recognize. He's recognized if you keep looking for a wolf and sheep's clothing. It's hard. Jesus says to stop looking at the flock of sheep. The key is to look at trees and their fruits. The second reality is that fruit is not used in the New Testament in a positive way. Particular fruit of spirit, but also fruit of life. Fruit righteousness. Well, Jesus refers to fruit in a negative way. Let's also look for negative signs. That is, that indicates the third false prophet. The third irony is that the fruit we look for in the false prophet is, in fact, no fruit. By the fruit, Jesus really means fruitlessness. This is because fruit cannot be found in thorn bushes or thistles. Everyone then knew that thorn bushes had little black and edible berries that could be mistaken for grapes. If you got close to them, your hands could get stuck with thorns. Thus, the shadow flower that from distance might be mistaken for a fig. If Jesus appeals to one's common sense, you should know more to a prophet like this than you should look for a grape in a thorn bush. It's also Jesus' sense of human coming through. False prophet might get it right once in a while. True prophet can get it wrong once in a while. False prophet, right, when he was forced to prophesy, this is on Israel. So we saw in the previous chapter, of course, once came to that. Nathan jumped the gun regarding David's building of the temple. Sam jumped the gun when he assumed Eliab would be the next king. Each of them climbed down a very short period of time. Oh, that's what he did not need to climb down regarding his actual prophecy. He never repented for his efforts to curse David. Identifying the false prophet. Quotes of Ezekiel, we saw that the fruit of the false prophet is fruitlessness. Satan means that the false prophet cannot deliver with goods. What he promises doesn't come to pass. His message will not change your life for good. An idea of following a narrow road is foreign to his message. He is capable of telling you how to live a godly life. He can't tell you how to die. A true prophet is a man of God. His predictions are true. His message will affirm the narrow way, which means you can expect excuse by following him. The true prophet can also tell you how to die. All the true gospel focuses on where you will spend eternity. Now, what's it used to say of the early Methodists? Our people died well. As a truthful testimony to the early Methodists. Yet Wesley himself held to certain teachings I would not agree with. Does that make Wesley a false prophet? No. Therefore, would not demand that a true prophet must have every eye cross every T on to our cherished convictions. But in the main, a true prophet will uphold the gospel and tell you how to live and how to die. The prophet is what he is no way about belief. He never speaks for God in the first place. Jesus therefore implies that not only is fruitlessness an ironic evidence of a false prophet, it demonstrates the impossibility of the fruit of a false prophet. Every good tree bears good fruit, but a bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot bear bad fruit because a bad tree cannot bear good fruit. This is heavily style of speaking to say something the second time, verse to make sure you understood it correctly. Verse 7. So we conclude a good tree is going to bear good fruit, bad tree will bear bad fruit. What would that good fruit be? First, the preaching of the true gospel, the true prophet of God, the faithfully represented God of the Bible, God will punish sin. And this message true God is so far. The influence of a true prophet will be producing love for the Bible as follows, meaning they want to read it. A true prophet will also encourage you to be open to the Holy Spirit. And what is good fruit means has an effect on their followers. Like it turn people from the true God to glorify the God of Israel. Good tree, good fruit. Bad tree produces bad fruit. This will mean either the perverting of the gospel or introducing the gospel at all. Emphasis will not be on being ready to face God at the judgment seat of God Christ, but will focus on what's in it for me, not here and now. One will use God's name for his or her own ends, there being no interest in God for his sake. Whereas the true prophet will focus on God, what's in it for God. The false prophet will focus on what's in it for me. But with the good tree there be no bad fruit. You should know the gospel would not result in foolishness. It could result in fear of God. The false prophets' ministry would not bring about fear of God. The wrong view of the gospel would not result in a person having assurance of salvation. The glorious consequence of a false prophet. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown into the fire. That's what happens with thorns and thistles. They're good, but nothing is destroyed. One does not trim and fertilize them. It simply removes them out of the way. They are like weeds, quick to the fire. But this false prophets will be sent to hell in the end. They most certainly will be sent to hell. They're unsaved people, but the reference to the fire may be referring to the result of their prophecies. They will come to nothing in the end. His main point is that it is only a matter of time where false prophet will be exposed. Yet a person who does not know better may think one of those tiny black berries and thorn bushes of real fruit that are inedible. Think about Balaam's prophecies. They look good, but never once are they quoted in the New Testament. They are seen as divination, quoted in the Old Testament. So many truth about Balaam's prophecy is that they were quite true. That is, they forecast Israel's future. It was Balak, Israel's enemy, who asked Balaam for that word. If Balaam would curse Israel, that will in turn Balaam's prophetic purposes to what in fact fear about. False prophets may also draw away some of God's people. Balaam's actually taught them to contextually disrupt the sin. But false prophecies like those of Balaam will eventually be exposed, finally thrown to the fire. Balaam's name never forgotten, and ancient Israel would like live in infamy. In conclusion, what is the difference between a false prophet and a false prophecy? Or a sick person? Or to say that good people get it wrong. As we saw, there is a sincere Christian will call him or her a false prophet because their prophecy does not come true. It does not mean they are frauds, but we all make mistakes. When a true Christian makes a correct statement,
that does not come true and has good motives. You should unite. It is to help anybody. Let's destroy what you got. False prophets, these warns against are as follows. They are not Christians. And may even use the name of the Lord. Okay. Do send in prophecy with us, says the Lord. They hate the God of the Bible. They want to destroy the church. They will be exposed in due time. They ought to be recognized and avoided. They will enter a dreadful end. It comes to dreadful end. Balaam was killed shortly after his victorious effort to curse Israel. Bad tree, bad fruit. When a person comes along with a familiar word, simultaneously restore the gospel of Jesus Christ. Makes you want to pray and read the Bible more and encourages you to pursue the narrow way. It's a good tree, bearing good fruit. So I'll be in chapter 86, talking about why prophecies go wrong. Good tree cannot bear bad fruit. Chapter 7, verse 18. Alright, so let's get into it, man. We're gonna get into a new book. It's March the 2nd, so March Madness tournament, NCAA tournament is coming up. And when March comes, it's always about the college athletes, men's and women's, how they play in the tournament, they get to the national championship, and the NCAA tournament. So as college basketball is concerned. So I'm gonna take it back, man. This new book that I'm gonna reading. It's called When March Went Mad. And this is about the game that transformed basketball. This is about this month on March 26, 1979. Larry Bird and the Indiana State Sycamores played Magic Johnson and the Michigan State Spartans. This is what changed the game. This is what brought madness to March. So this book is called When March Went Mad, the game that transformed basketball. So I'm going to be reading just the prologue, and that's it. And take you through this journey about this month until I finish the book and keep moving. All right, let's go with the prologue. Let's get started. On Sunday evening, March 25th, 1979, an NBC Sports production team gathered in the conference room at the Hotel Utah in Salt Lake City to go over the game plan for the following night's NCAA men's basketball championship game. Coach Finkel, the game producer, spoke first, laid out the manner in which he and his broadcasting team of Dick Enberg, Al McGuire, and Billy Packer will be presenting the contest between Michigan State and Indiana State. The next person to speak was Don McGuire, no relation to Al, who produced the pregame, halftime, and postgame segments that were hosted by Brian Gumbel. Before beginning a career in television, McGuire had worked as a sports information director at the University of New Mexico, where the associate athletic director was a man named Bob King. King has since moved on to become head coach, basketball coach at Indiana State University. So before this started the 1978-79 season, he developed an aneurysm in his brain and had to undergo emergency surgery. That forced King to hand over the reins to his young assistant, Bill Hodges. Despite having no head coaching experiences, had guided the Sycamore to a stunning 33-0 record, birthing the national championship game. McGuire had hoped that he wanted to air a story on King, the incapacitated head coach, on NBC's pregame segment on Monday night. McGuire was abruptly interrupted by Don Omar, executive producer of NBC Sports. Lord domineering sometimes one basket man. Ohlmeyer had spent a decade at ABC Sports, learning at the legendary producer Roman Aldridge. While working for the popular eclectic program Wild World Sports, Ohlmeyer learned the importance of a dub in a storyline to help up interest in a sporting event. Nobody cares about King. What about Magic and Bird? Omar said to Don McGuire. Omar was referring to Owen Magic Johnson and Larry Bird, All-American stars at Michigan State, University, and Indiana State, and respectively. And the uncomfortable silence fell in the room. Well, Wire said Big Al and Billy are going to be talking a lot about those two during the game. We got highlight pieces to set the music ready to go for halftime. But you're going to do that in the pregame too. Those guys are the stars here. That's what people want to see. Omar's edict left McGuire in a bit of a pickle. In the first place, he now had less than 24 hours to put together a quality piece. More problematic was Bird's new choice and antipathy toward the media. He had gone through most of the season without speaking to the press. McGuire had no idea whether Bird would consent to be interviewed so close to the tip-off. The following morning, Don McGuire sent Brad Cacker, camera crew, who said he thought State and Sycamores were just completing their game day super round. Fortunately for NBC, Bird agreed to answer a couple of questions. Packer began by asking him how he felt about playing for the national championship. This is probably the biggest game I've ever played in my life. Bird replied in his high-pitched Hoosier twang, which made life sound like life. When he spoke, Larry looked not at Packer but straight ahead, slightly down. He had a disconcerting, have a resistant eye for that people know well. I just feel like I'm representing not only myself, my team, we represent our school and our town. So we hope it means so much to me just to even be here that we're gonna give it all we got. We're gonna try our hardest to win. You know, Packer said a lot of people were surprised yesterday, like when you mentioned you played ball with Magic Johnson or an invitational tournament. Packer was referring to the tournament the two of them played for Team USA. Previous summer that connected with the game against the squad from Russia and Lexington, Kentucky. I cracked the vet wire out. Well, you know, me and Rashad played in that game. You know, it's funny because Magic's such a great passer, but he couldn't give me the ball. You know, I need the ball. And if you had been surprisingly present and light, Larry left the court with his team in the Michigan State Spartans go into the arena. But Packer knew there was no concern over whether Patrick Johnson would consent to an interview. Because had never dealt with an athlete who so enjoyed the game and the say with the media. It's a dream come true, really, for me. Johnson had said in answer to Packer's first question. Won a state title in high school back in my home state. And my next accomplishment was going to the NCAA and playing a game like tonight in the finals. It's a dream come true. Like I said, it's an awful important game. I just hope we play up to par and win the game. Packer then told Magic what Bird had said about him. Johnson flashed a bright, obvious smile that would soon earn him millions of dollars. Well, I hope he don't think I'm going to pass it to him tonight. I thought I passed him the ball. Maybe he forgot. Don McGuire was pleased to hear about Packer's excursion had been successful. Now enough material to make NBC's pregame show at all Magic and Bird a fit. In retrospect, it seems inconceivable that anyone involved in the producing the game could have failed to recognize the significance of the impending conversation between the two compelling characters. Omar, however, possessed an innate sense of theater that allowed him to see beyond their attractors. For basketball, the audience. He knew that if NBC could draw in a casual sports fan, even a non-sports fan, the network would have something bigger than just a game. He would have an event. But one measured the impact of the 1979 NCAA championship game be apparent a few days later. Nielsen Media Research reported that the contest had generated a 24.1 million rating, which meant that nearly a quarter of all television sets in America were tuned in that night. 30 years later, that remains the highest Nielsen rating for any basketball game, college or pro, in the history of the sport, thanks to the proliferation of channels that has taken place since then. It's unlikely the number will ever be surpassed by another basketball game. So the 2008 NCAA final between University of Memphis and the University of Kansas, yielding a 12.1 Nielsen rating, healthy number by Melvin Sanders when Magic's and Birds former pro teams the Los Angeles Lakers, while Celtics met in the 2008 NBA Finals. It was held as a dream scenario for the league. Yet, the highest rating in any of the 6 games delivered was a 10.7. While the success that Magic and Bird they enjoyed in the pros added a perspective listen today, which means it does not account intense interest the two of them generated that night. Those millions of viewers had no idea they were watching the birth of a story rivalry modern American sports. They were simply drawn in by the dramatic storyline straight out of the Old Testament. Little Indiana State, which had competed in the NCAA's Division I for only 10 years, taking on Michigan State, the mighty Big Ten team, the title. That concept might not have been so titillating if they were playing a best of seven series. The one and done format of the NCAA tournament made it irresistible. Anything could happen. The thinking went, so you better watch. This was a classic David versus Goliath story. It made people feel like this was a once in a lifetime event. It was similar to America's struggle for the underdog. Here comes Indiana State as this big blonde guy before chemistry majors. The agreement was they played in the minor league, and they are really that good. They're matching up against the Big Ten power. Magically speaking, it was truth strangling fiction. Their story was strangled fiction by itself. Many people knew the skeleton details of the sound farm boy. Outside Indiana University spends a time year on a garbage truck. Source resources at Indiana State leaves the Stigmas to a storybook undefeated season or before the championship game. Indiana State had played on national television just 3 times. In '79, you say this is the way final gave many minutes later their first glimpse of Bird. You didn't get to see everybody on television all the time, so those days it was a big treat when the tournament finally rolled around. Bird's tight-lipped approach to the media only added to his allure. There was just enough known about Bird and just enough unknown. A little mystery goes a long way. Bird was so underexposed that his roommate teammate in the state, he would later say that up until the championship game, he had friends who definitely thought Larry was black. This teaches on another aspect of Bird's matchup, the magic that he were in the big audience. The two central protagonists were both high-skilled big men who wore the number 33, but the similarities ended there. Magic was black, Bird was white. Magic loved being the center of attention, Bird was painfully shy. Magic grew up in urban Lansing, and Bird was a hit conflict flick. Magic played for the big state school in the high-profile Big Ten. Bird toiled in obscurity for small colleges that competed for something called the Missouri Valley Conference. Most of all, America tuned in to the 1979 NCAA championship game, recognized because people understood that these two young men had a unique, exquisite style of basketball. It wasn't their physical abilities that drew folks in. Magic and Bird weren't especially quick or agile. Neither man be a candidate for the high jump, yet they were intense competitors and great thinkers on the court. Those qualities manifested themselves in the previous play of the past. More than anything, Magic and Bird were great passers. They were truly something to see. Magic was a 6'8" point guard, and that was certainly unique. But it wasn't as if he was David Thompson. It wasn't as if he was Michael Jordan. You see, because he knew how the game was played. So did Bird. I'm not going to deny the great athletes and had great hand-eye coordination, but they weren't preternaturally because the average watching them was good watching basketball the way it should be played. On that Monday night, that Monday evening, more than 2,000 miles from where Indiana State and Michigan State were taking the court in Salt Lake City, the General Counsel of the National Basketball Association was sitting in front of a television in the living room of his home in Scarsdale, New York. The NBA was in the midst of a terrible season beset by sagging attendance, plummeting TV ratings, and a growing perception that white America never buy into a sport dominated by black players. David Stern wouldn't become the NBA's commissioner for another 5 years. As he watched Magic and Bird go at it at night, he couldn't help but hope the program was about to get a badly needed boost. We were very excited at the NBA that these two extraordinary gifted athletes that were generating this potential were coming our way, he said. Some 80 miles northeast of Stern's home, a dozen or so ambitious young wannabe television executives were wrapping up another day on day, working in cramped offices in Bristol, Connecticut. Had spent the day continuing the preparation for the launch of a new cable television venture, the Entertainment and Sports Programming Network, which will soon be known as ESPN. The official launch date was September 7th. Tales kind of been rough. Like a deal a few weeks before, with NCAA Executive Director Bolton's bias to broadcast all the NCAA championship contests that were not being aired by one of the big three networks. The deal gave ESPN the rights to use NBC's feed of the early rounds of the NCAA tournament beginning in 1980. We kept telling ourselves this time next year, we're going to do the games leading up to this point. The contract with NCAA was huge, because at that point, our network was really built on college basketball. He was courtside at the scores table in Salt Lake City. Dave Gavitt since he was glimpsing into a bountiful future for the sport. Gary the spoken wit, smart athletic director at Providence College, serving his first season as a member of the NCAA men's basketball committee, and having participated in NCAA's negotiation with ESPN, he understood better than most of the potential that the emergence of cable television. Over the previous few months, I secretly met with coaches and administrators from Georgetown University, St. John's University, Syracuse University, hopes to convince them to join Providence in a new basketball conference that would comprise schools located in the major television markets of the Northeast. Gary did not realize how quickly his brainstorm would come to fruition. The Big East would begin competing during the next 79-80 season. As the Magic Bird faced off go out on way, just his idea was coming along at an opportune time. The division had the ability to take something about big, make it bigger. We felt like we were on the cusp of that with college basketball NCAA tournament. As Stern, Rasmussen, Gravin boxed the 1979 NCAA championship game, each was optimistic that it would have a positive impact on his own corner of the basketball world. But because they could not perceive all the external forces vying that night, they could not fully comprehend what was really happening. The game of basketball was about to change forever. 1979 in this league championship game helped to counter both college basketball, especially the NCAA tournament, the national championship. In fact, the game kicked off a 6-year stretch that can fairly be capitalized as a golden era NCAA tournament. Between 1979 and 1985, the tournament introduced to the country 6 players who would dominate the NBA over the next 2 decades. Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Isaiah Thomas, Michael Jordan, Patrick Ewing, and Hakeem Olajuwon. That period also included 2 of the greatest championship game upsets in sports history: North Carolina State of Houston in 1983 and Villanova of Georgetown in 1985. In 1979, the NCAA tournament was spanned to include 40 teams, up from 32 to the year before. The tournament was expanded twice more over the next 5 years to 48 teams in 1980 before 1985, with the exemption of the addition of the 65th team to accommodate an opening round game in 2001. The tournament has not been expanded since. Television rights fees have undergone a similar explosion. The 69 NCAA tournament grossed $5.2 million in TV revenue. That figure doubled when NBC renewed its contract for 2 years in 1980, when CBS purchased the rights for NBC prior to the 1982 tournament. It paid $48 million for 3 years. CBS price doubled again, when it forked over $96 million for another 3 years in 1985. The fees grew so fast that in 1999, CBS NCAA tournament, the NCAA agreed to an 11-year, $6 billion deal with commence the 2003 tournament. During the late 1960s and early 70s, the NCAA tournament had been built its popularity on the dominance of John Wooden's UCF Bruins, won 10 championships in 12 years. Many observers worried that the tournament would falter that run in the next 75. The Magic Bird championship game firmly stamped the NCAA tournament as a place where stars are born. Impossible becomes impossible. The impossible becomes possible, and it also comes in at most propitious time and moment. The dawn of the cable TV era will be dominated by ESPN and administrators like Dave Gavitt moving to acquire more exposure for their universities during a period when the NBA had so much room to grow. Under soon-to-be new Commissioner David Stern, the NBA prospered in the 1980s thanks to the Magic Bird rivalry. The league continued to offer a forum where fans could enjoy the great athletes. It was discovered during the month of March. Thus, Indiana State and Michigan State convened at Center Court in Salt Lake on March 26, 1979. Other pieces were failing was falling into place. The transform basketball. What needed was be slack was a catalytic event to transform their interest into true madness. The college game was already on the launching pad, I'm McGuire said. And Bird and Magic came along, pushed the button. Like that's it. I'll be in chapter 1 tomorrow. Talking about when March went mad. A game that transformed basketball. In chapter 1. So that's it for today. I'll be in chapter 86 of Sermon on the Mount and chapter 1 of When March with Mad. Getting a chance from basketball. So till then, like, subscribe to the channel. Talk to you tomorrow.